first and foremost, Clemson won this game 47-21 down in Death Valley. A lot of people were looking for Clemson to score 80, 90. I'm not going to lie. I was one of those people that said the score was going to be 63-6. I think we had recency bias of what happened with Georgia Tech. But, Syracuse came off of a embarrassing loss to Liberty. And Liberty is one of those schools that is actually sneaky good. They are 6-0 right now. Hugh Freeze has got that team. They're just humming right now. And Syracuse is kind of on the mend. But what happens when you corner a hurt animal? They're going to attack. They're going to come at you, right? They're going to give everything because they have nothing to lose. This team was supposed to lose by 45 points, and they came in and said, hey. And you know what? This has kind of been the thing with Dino Babers. This is honestly what I think has kept his job. Every other year, they give Clemson a problem. And look, it's always the years that Syracuse is not supposed to be good. It's the years that Syracuse are really, really bad that this team gives Clemson a scare. Outside of that 10-3 year that feels like 80 years ago now, but I mean, at this point, I want to tip my cap to Syracuse. That's the first thing I want to say before we even start anything. I want to tip my cap to Syracuse because those guys came in. They were not afraid. They played like they had nothing left, like it was the last game they'll ever play. They still got beat by 26. Facts, we're going to do this. We're going to talk about the goods. We're going to talk about the bads. We're going to start with the good because that's what we're spreading positivity here. That's what we want. Facts, what is the good in the game that you saw?
The good is that Clemson won by, 26 points?
26 points.
I would say that is good. The good would be that I did not feel like Trevor Lawrence had a bad game, even though he kind of got unlucky with a tipped interception. Travis Etienne looked really good on a lot of his runs. The defense, don't let that 21 figure get it twisted. It was a pick six.
Yep.
There was a fluke play that put them in awful field position. They really only gave up 7 points the whole game,
That's right.
in my eyes. And they forced a defensive turnover for a touchdown themselves as well. So I felt really enthused by the way the defense performed. I know it's against Rex Culpepper, a pretty mediocre Syracuse offense, but I really liked how the defense played. I think the linebacking play and replacing Jamie Skalski, who has an injury, was good.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was really good. I think Mike
Yes.
Jones was great. I think Jake Venables was great. I think Braden Spector was great. All of them were good. The defensive line was good. Booth, secondary was a little shaky on coming off over the middle and man coverage on those slants. Clemson got beat on like 5 or 6 slants.
Make sure we hold that for the bad. Make sure that we hold that for the bad.
We're holding that for the bad.
We're only going good right now.
But the good would be that the secondary was really good in the run game. So I think the defense would be the majority of the good, and then Trevor and Travis balled out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the biggest thing that I saw was a lot of resolve, the heart of a champion. We talk about this a lot. Teams that are good have the heart of a champion. What I mean by that is they do not give up. When they have adversity, they go after it. They don't get their heads sunken. They're ready to go. They're ready to say, Coach, next play. Rear view mirror mentality, right? I saw that on a play where you give up a huge reverse, and it's embarrassing, and everybody's like, oh, my gosh, they're down in the 10 now, and you get an interception immediately right after that. You have Travis Etienne, a guy who was cramping the whole game. Everybody was worried about what's going on. You could hear an audible gasp in the stadium. And it's not even that many people at Death Valley right now, but you hear an audible gasp when he goes out. But he comes back in, and the first thing he does is get another touchdown. He gets another touchdown. That's what I'm talking about. We want to see that resolve. And then on top of that, I saw a little bit from the coaches. We don't talk about the coaches enough. They get in bad situations too. Sometimes you get in a funk with play calling. I've seen it out of Tony Elliott a lot. You can go back to the national championship. Sometimes you get inside your own head. Brent Venables, he does not like the big play. No defensive coordinator in the world likes big plays. If you do, you're not a very good defensive coordinator. You got a bad defense, right? But even with some of those weird big plays that you gave up, they still found a way to get turnovers. And turnovers has been critical for this defense because what we talked about last week, we talked about how Georgia has a lot of big-name stars. Clemson doesn't. However, Clemson's been able to get a lot of turnovers with guys that were just shuffling in and out. I'm glad you mentioned the linebackers. We're going to talk about that later because Jamie Skalski has been announced to be out for a little while. He's going to have some a scope in his groin. That sounds awful, by the way. Nobody would want to have that. But I'm glad I saw what I saw. And again, the resolve to – it was 27-21. A lot of people want to make a lot out about that. But truthfully – you end up winning that game by 4 scores. Could have been more. if focus is there. I'm seeing a lot of guys step up too. With that said, let's not be all orange-colored glasses. Let's talk about the negatives because you have to have those negatives. And look, if you're a Clemson fan and you hear somebody just critiquing the team, there's nothing wrong with that. No team is perfect. I don't care what team. The 2018 team was not perfect. But you have to be able to understand that there is some negatives that come with that. And first things first, let's go ahead and talk about it. We've said it many times. Run plays. Up the A gap is not happening this year. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because the guys are just not on sync yet across the O-line. I know a lot of that protection. A lot of this is probably from the RPO situation where Trevor Lawrence has the liberty to be able to change it based off of what he sees in coverage. But, and you know, I want to also say that just because you're playing a team that's 1-4 doesn't mean they don't have Division I scholarship players, first and foremost. And they're going to take some things away from you. Syracuse sold out to stop the run. They also made sure that there was going to be nothing deep. So no explosive plays, no running up right the middle of the gap, right? A gap. But you have to impose your will at times. You have to dominate as well. And there's times where I question if Clemson can do. If Clemson did not have the outside zone, the bucket draw, power draw, sweeps like that, I'm wondering what would happen. I don't know that Clemson would be as powerful as they are if they did not have those, because right now the inside run has just not been there. And then another thing, I'll just go ahead and say, and I know you're gonna enjoy talking about this, but Frank Lasson still can't catch.
Yeah, man. He doesn't have receiver hands. He doesn't have those natural wide receiver hands. If we're going, I want to go back to some of your comments about the A gap. Good Lord, with the 2nd and 10 runs, they make.
Golly.
Just please, if the ball is if the play is 2nd and 8+, you should not be running the ball. You should not be running the ball. It works one time out of 15 that you get to a game. I understand the concept of it. You're trying to get it to 3rd and manageable. But teams have figured out that Clemson does that. It worked 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But they sit on it now. They will stack the box, and we will still run on 2nd and 10 into the 7-man box. I'm sitting here like, what are we doing? Like, I'm sitting at the game. I'm like 2nd and 8. We're running the ball up the middle with Travis, 2 yards, and then all of a sudden we're 3rd and 6, and we throw short of the sticks.
Yeah, every single time. And you know, the emphasis of being very efficient on first down. If you get in a good position, if you're in 1st and short, you don't have to worry about that big deal. I would run every single time if it was 2nd and 5. But we're getting in situations where 2nd and 8, you don't get any yards, you might get 1, and now you're in 3rd and 6. And what are you going to do in the situation when you're just going to throw little slants, little out routes, things like that usually get incomplete. They're incomplete. Again, those are the things I talk about with Tony Elliott maybe getting in his head a little bit, but I trust Tony Elliott to get those things together. I'll tell you another thing though too. I want to pump the brakes on it being about Clemson so much. Give credit to Syracuse defense. Look, I think Clemson anticipated Syracuse not being able to stop the run, and I've said this plenty of times. You never focus on what the team was bad at the week before, because they're going to make adjustments to that. If you see a team and they're getting torched, unless they have literally ghosts, apparitions for secondary, they're going to make adjustments and try to figure that out, whether they're working in the zone, combo coverages, trying to disguise things. That's what helps them. I think Clemson thought maybe we can get them in the middle because we saw Liberty destroy them. We saw Duke destroy them in the run game. It was just not there overall for Clemson. Now, Travis Etienne did have a pretty good game. I think he had 89 yards, 3 touchdowns. But it was a grind-out game in this one. And we saw the same out of Lynn J. Dix and some other guys get some carries. But I also think that Syracuse got Clemson off schedule. You know, Clemson, again, we talk about first down. They had an idea in mind for 1st and 2nd down. We all know that games are scripted, especially the first few drives, the first quarter and the 3rd quarter. I think they got Clemson off schedule. And that's why Trevor Lawrence was kind of like, what's happening here? These things are not open. They dropped coverage. They made sure nothing was going behind them, and they made sure to crowd that line of scrimmage. That way, there was no way you're going to run up the A gap, right? But at the same time, they got big corners. Melon Wamfu's like 6'4".
Yeah.
These guys are huge.
And we have a good comment coming from John Sarian out of the comment section. He said, Clemson's 3rd down conversion rate is better than last year's by 8 or 9%. I did want to talk about Clemson has been so good on 3rd and long.
Yes,
They
great.
have been so good on 3rd and long. And
Maybe
it's
not
like,
this game.
Not this game,
Not
but
this
like
game.
over the course of the year, it's been noticeable. There's been times where it's been 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, and we're just throwing this little mesh post across the middle. Amari Rogers is
Right.
usually sitting on the end of that, or Joe Ngata, Frank Ladson, whoever's lining up at the X is coming across on that mesh post, and I swear it drops right in the middle of the zone every time.
Every single time. And
Yeah.
also having the emergence of Davis Allen and Brayton Galloway has helped out Clemson on 3rd down, because now you have a threat. You already had a threat with Trevor Lawrence running the ball, Travis Etienne catching the ball out of the backfield, but now you have a tight end. Clemson's done the exact same play with the tight end fake every time. They fake the little shovel pass and throw it right down the middle. Davis Allen is open every single time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those kind of things help Clemson. I agree. Their 3rd down has been better. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we are not getting ourselves in situations where we have to rely on 3rd down. We don't have Hunter Renfrow anymore. Brandon Spector's a really good receiver. Not quite Hunter Renfrow yet. In fact, I don't know there's very many Hunter Renfrows out there, except maybe Alabama has a new one. We'll talk about that one later too. But I think that overall, you saw exactly what you wanted to see. And this is why I tried to caution people about worrying about what a game looks like week to week. And, you know, I made a comment out there on Twitter. I'll go ahead and own that. I said that I thought that Clemson might not be the first team, number 1 team in the country, barring this Alabama destruction against Tennessee. But they didn't. And I thought a lot of that was because of the bias and because of previous years, people did not give Clemson respect even when they won. I don't care about the margins. They just don't give Clemson respect. I'm going to walk that one back. Obviously, they did not drop in the polls. They still had a very strong voter in the AP voting polls. But a lot of that is because people understand now that that is not Clemson of the past. This is now Clemson who doesn't lose those games. In fact, when's the last time Clemson lost a game like that? Was it Syracuse? But at the same time, you had an injury and this and that. It's 2017. Clemson doesn't lose those games. So the trust is there. Also, I feel like we had the same conversation a couple weeks ago against Virginia. A lot of people were saying, oh, man, you know, defense looks so bad. What are they going to do against Miami? Oh, my gosh. They just gave up 24 points to who is Brennan Armstrong? You know, and then you have this week where now people are going, oh, the offense just didn't look that good and we were sluggish and slow. Granted, that's true. There's truth to both things. But I don't feel like it's such a bad deal that Clemson can't overcome it. Obviously, they did.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go on a little bit of rant here. All right. Look, truthfully, this Clemson Tiger team might be the best team that we've seen in a long time, if not ever.
I can't even imagine if it was fully healthy.
If they were fully healthy. Look, and not only that, but they are getting some things going that other teams would have not came out of this hole. And we're going to talk about this now because we're going to go into it. We're going to talk about Jamie Skalski. It's a big, big, big hit. The news came out today. Jamie Skalski's going to have a scope in his hip. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. You know, a lot of people are scared because what are we going to do at linebacker now that we have Notre Dame coming? And oh my gosh. Here's the deal.
Is Skalski officially ruled out for that Notre Dame
He's
game?
probably going to be out. If you get a scope in your hip.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're talking 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, I don't think he's going to be back on the
That
field.
could pose a problem with their run game.
Here's the deal. I want to talk about this a little bit because I agree with you, but then I'm also going to give you another mindset from it. So if you're a Clemson fan and you hate it when Clemson has their backups and the reserves in the first quarter, you're really going to hate the fact that your your linebacking core might have a lot of guys out because not only is Jamie Skalski out, but Mike Jones Jr. is day-to-day. He might be out as well. So then you're going to look at his replacements. Who can get in there? Who can play? And everybody's going to say Jake Venables. Oh, I don't know, man. You know, Jamie Skalski is a leader. That's correct. He is a leader. He is the leader of the defense. But I'm going to tell you something. So is Nolan Turner. So is DK when he's out there. So is Tyler Davis if he gets to play. We're seeing young guys step up now, right? Here's the deal. Part of why Clemson is where they are right now is because they've gotten those players in way earlier than other teams would have ever considered putting those guys in. You're seeing Walker Parks get in on first
Because these guys are getting snaps their whole career.
They're getting snaps their whole career. I trust Jake Venables in that spot over when you don't have Jamie Skalski. I trust him. He's been in the system for a couple of years, and if you want to know anybody that knows the defense, I would guess it would be the defensive coordinator's son. right?
I trust Venables from a
I trust him.
mindset perspective, yes.
Well, that's the thing. That's all you need sometimes.
yeah.
So
No one's the athlete that Skalski is.
that's
No
right.
one.
And
so,
see,
and we're not saying that he can match this production, but he can do a serviceable enough job to where it's not a glaring hole.
right. And not only that, but you got to think about Clemson has other guys that they can trot out. And not only that, but they're going to get experience for these guys now that will help them against Notre Dame. Again, Jake Venables has been playing for a couple of years, right? He's got experience. I don't feel weird about him playing against Notre Dame. Just get in there and clog up the holes. In fact, I actually feel more confident about Jake Venables in the run support than in pass support. So I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here. You got Kane Patterson, who's going to get a shot to come in and really play. Keith McGuire, a guy who was all world up in Pennsylvania, getting all these interceptions and tackles, right? He's like the Pennsylvania State leading tackler in history, right? Then you got Vontae Bentley, another hard-hitting guy that's in there ready to go. These guys are going to get opportunities now that's going to help them later on. So I don't feel so weird about it. Maybe talk me off the ledge. Maybe I'm orange-colored glasses right now, but I feel like Clemson's going to be fine. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about the D-line. So Tyler Davis is still, we don't know what the issue was in. Maybe he's still hurt. Do you know?
I have no idea what's going on with
I have no
Tyler
idea.
Davis. He didn't even play last game.
No, he didn't.
So he was scratched. He was inactive. Hopefully he's back next week and for these couple tune-ups before Notre Dame, and he can have an impact against Notre Dame. But I wouldn't expect him to play starter snaps against Notre Dame just the way things are trending, because he kind of came back for a little, and last week he scratched again. It makes me think he re-aggravated his injury.
And maybe so. And look, there is a visible difference when Tyler Davis is not on the field, and maybe more so than Jamie Skalski. Remember, we didn't have Jamie Skalski for the first half of the Wake Forest game. You didn't notice it, right? I'm going to tip my hat and give credit to Boston College. I think Boston College is going to come into this game. They're riding a high right now. Been very successful. They've got a revelation at quarterback in Phil Jerkovich. But look, honestly, Boston College is running the same offense and the same formations, just now passing the ball more. It's not anything new. It's not rocket science what Jeff Hafley has done with this offense, right? But they are going to pose a threat. I think Clemson came out in that three-man front last week against Syracuse because they expected Syracuse to go more of a passing game, tempo type thing. When they didn't get tempoed, what did Clemson do? They were like, well, we only have 3 men on the field, and now they're running the ball. This is why they were getting gashed earlier on, right? But at the same time, I think that's where the adjustments come in. So you're missing Tyler Davis. You're going to be missing Jamie Skalski. What do? I would suggest going to a 4-man front, especially against a team that can run the ball. You want to get after Phil Jerkovich, why not bring in Niles Pinckney, Jordan Williams? Those guys have a lot of experience. Put them beside Brian Brzee. You have Miles Murphy, a resurgent XT. He's playing much more. I don't think he's ready yet. He's not football ready yet, but he's getting there, right? And then you have Justin Maskell that can switch out. I really wish we had Justin Foster, but it'll be fine. But I think that'll mitigate some of the problems with the linebackers, some of the guys missing in that situation. If you got 4 guys in that front, you're running a true 7-man front. I'm not scared of Clemson going up against anybody with those guys, even with the reserves and backups.
Yeah, and we have a comment coming again from John Sarian. He said BC is going to throw the ball all over the yard. More worried about the secondary, specifically without Davis in the pass rush. And yes,
Good
a lot
question,
of times you will see Clemson. Their D-line is very good, but Clemson will get coverage sacks a lot. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
Darion Kendrick did not play last week.
He did not.
So I am slightly concerned, as just from a Clemson fan perspective, seeing that Clemson was getting a beat on a lot of these quick hitter routes over the middle.
Yep.
Specifically, Booth got burnt 3 to 4
And
times on
he's been
slants.
burnt a couple of times this year.
He's been good.
But he's made up for it with great
he's
plays.
made up for it with some turnovers.
Yeah.
But it's slightly concerning that Clemson will not have the luxury of getting all that pressure on Jerkovich without the few pass rushers and linebackers in there. And now we might have Darion Kendrick, our number 1 lockdown corner, out next week. So I could see BC putting up some points next week, just in all honesty.
Look, BC, but maybe not.
Didn't they put up almost 50 last week?
42 last
42.
week. Now let's go ahead and break down Boston College. Let's move on from Syracuse. That happened. Tip their cap to them. Good luck to their season. Dino Babers, great coach. Love the guy. He gets on my nerves from a Clemson fan standpoint. But let's go ahead and talk about BC. First of all, I want to address this comment from Ryan Bond. What's up, buddy? He says, okay, is Rutgers good? 2020 is weird. And you know how I feel about Rutgers. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, your
'Cause I hate Rutgers.
your narrative took a little bit of the blow. The Scarlet Knights went into East Lansing and they pounded them. Was
Hey,
it
maybe-
7 turnovers for the Spartans?
Yes, and they got Noah Vidral, man. He's wearing number 0 as a quarterback. That's awesome. But back on track, we're going to talk about Boston College here. So Boston College, again, they have not really changed their philosophy as far as personnel. They're still going to run 23. They've got a million tight ends.
They run some
Long is the
12.
guy.
Yeah.
They're going to run a lot of 12 because they're based out of that. They're still a pro-style offense, right?
But they chuck it all over the lot now.
But they chuck it all over the lot because they have a quarterback that can do it. Dennis Grosel from last year, we saw him down in Death Valley. We knew he wasn't going to do that. Anthony Brown tried to do that, but Steve Adazio could not get out of his own head. And if it was literally first, you talk about running on second down. That was Steve Adazio's special. The guy had a ceiling of 7 and 5 because they could not figure out how to throw the football consistently. And now they're doing that with Jeff Hadley. Now the defense has always been good, and now you have a extremely. He's one of the best defensive coordinators out there. He's up at Ohio State. Oh, that makes me cringe, but the guy knows football, right? And he has experience with Clemson. Remember, they played Clemson in the semifinal last year with Ohio State. So he knows some of Clemson's tendencies. It's going to be on Tony Elliott to be able to get some of these things, all of these tendencies out of the way. The only thing I will say, you're catching Clemson on a week where they were not focused.
Yeah.
Last week,
I think Clemson will
they
be
were
locked
not
in this
focused.
week.
They're going to be locked in. I would be, because Clemson has exotic packages, things that Phil, remember, let's not forget, Phil Jerkovich is a sophomore. This is his 6th start of the year of his career. He's never been to Death Valley before. It's one of those deals where if you got a locked in Clemson, you have a Clemson understanding that, hey, we got some guys out. We got to work it out some things, right? I feel like Clemson is going to actually keep them under 17 points. I truthfully do. I know, again, we're going on a recency bias. We're thinking, okay, well, because Syracuse scored 21 points, that means that Boston College, since they scored 42, is going to score that. Remember, let's not forget, Georgia Tech beat the crap out of Syracuse. Really bad. But what ended up happening? We beat them by 66. Then we start thinking, oh, we're going to beat Syracuse by 45 because the sports book came out with 45, and then everybody got it in their head, and maybe the Tigers did as well. And then you got a reality check. Well, I think that reality check came for Clemson at the right time because you have Boston College, a team that's going to give you a little bit of a fight.
Yeah.
Then you have Notre Dame off after an off week.
All right. Yeah, we had a good comment coming here, and this was something I actually noticed during the game too. Jordan Bowman asked, why was Joseph Charleston lined up so much in man-to-man coverage last week? And if you remember, the one big play from the Syracuse offense was Jordan Charleston getting beat on a wheel route on the outside. Clemson was kind of scrambling around to make some adjustments. Rex Culpepper quick hiked it. They ran a wheel on the outside, and Charleston got torched. But I did notice, like he said, he was in man a lot last week.
So the reason why that was happening is they were bringing out tight ends. So they were running what would be a traditional 11 personnel set out of shotgun, but they were bringing guys out that were bigger bodies. Joseph Charleston's a safety. You're not going to put Andrew Booth on a safety, on a tight end.
And the one time that Charleston got caught on the receiver, you saw what happened.
Exactly.